phone call from my grandson to say, my mommy has been shot.
By the way, they don't say that he's a They claim there's a conspiracy. They claim that Lamar Suggs is a Give him a high bond.
I don't think he should see the light of day until this case is solved. That's what I would ask of this court.
When you have a spoiled daughter,
Promise I'm gonna speak up when I hop about a car. I promise I'm gonna speak up when I hop about a cut. I promise I'm gonna speak up when I hop about.
Hey guys, let's do a pregnancy bump update. So I am now, get this fucking baby out of me, weeks along. The baby is the size of a fucking whale and what sounds like at least 5 painful stitches. My main symptom is bitch.
In the early hours of March 4th, 2023, a man would kill his pregnant wife on her due date. At around 5 a.m., officers were called to the Hidden Meadows apartments after neighbors reported hearing gunfire. When they arrived, they were greeted by a discovery that was far more horrifying. Inside the apartment, they found the lifeless body of a woman. More chillingly, she was pregnant. She was supposed to be experiencing one of the most joyful moments of her life, ready to welcome her new son into the world. But what was meant to be a day of new beginnings quickly turned into a horrific tragedy that would shake her family and community to the core. Hours before she was set to be induced, she was found shot to death in her own home. Tragically, the person responsible for this heinous act was someone far closer to her than anyone could have ever imagined. This is the life and death of Litha India Kinmore. India Kinmore was born on April 13, 1996, in Cincinnati, Ohio. A young woman full of life, creativity, and kindness, India was known for her vibrant personality. Her ability to make everyone around her feel loved and cared for was unparalleled. She was the type of person whose presence could brighten the darkest of days. Sadly, her personality couldn't save her from being killed by someone she trusted. India had an infectious smile, and her warmth was felt by everyone who knew her. She was especially close to her family, with a bond so strong it could be mistaken for that of best friends rather than mere relatives. Growing up in a home filled with love and laughter, she learned early on the importance of family and nurturing relationships. But India's life would soon take a turn. In 2016, India became a mother for the first time. At the age of 20, she gave birth to her son, Zai, and although motherhood was initially a source of fear and uncertainty, she embraced it wholeheartedly. She admitted that when she first found out she was pregnant, she was scared. She had other plans. She thought she needed to finish school, get married, and be financially stable before becoming a mom. But despite her fears, she realized that God had other plans for them. She poured all her love and energy into her son, determined to give him a life full of opportunities, happiness, and support. She shared her joys, fears, and hopes for him openly, expressing how hearing him call her mommy every day gave her strength. But India's life wasn't all sunshine. India's journey to motherhood was not without her struggles, but she wore each challenge like a badge of honor. By all accounts, Zai was her entire world, and she never missed an opportunity to remind him how much she loved him. She made it her mission to balance her responsibilities while nurturing her son's growth and curiosity. But life would throw her a hard challenge. In 2021, India faced one of the hardest moments of losing her cousin, Jayla, who was tragically killed by a drunk driver. The loss of Jayla sent India into a deep grieving process. Life felt strange without her, and through a time, it seemed as though India's joy had been dimmed. But just as she was dealing with the heartbreak, India would receive another news. She discovered that she was pregnant again, a new life growing inside her that gave her hope for the future. The father of her unborn child, Kayvon Warren, a 30-year-old man from Cincinnati, appeared at first to be the ideal partner. He worked steadily at Bosch Automotive and had side hustles like hosting sip and paint events for children and adults. Kayvon was the father of 2 other children from a previous relationship, and he spoke highly of the lessons he learned from strong women, crediting them for the man he had become. To those who knew him, Kayvon appeared to be responsible, dependable, and supportive. But as we've seen in many of my videos, appearance could be deceiving. And just like every case, beneath the surface, not everything was as it seemed. India, while initially unsure about having another child, came to embrace the pregnancy and shared her excitement online.
Hey guys, let's do a pregnancy bump update. So I am now, get this baby out of me, weeks along. The baby is the size of a whale and what sounds like at least 5 painful stitches. My main symptom is bitch.
She posted about the ups and downs of being pregnant and expressed joy at the thought of welcoming her son into the world. Kayvon, on the other hand, was less enthusiastic. At one point, he even posted online asking for information on how to get a vasectomy, clearly indicating he was not thrilled about the idea of having another child. Though their relationship seemed like a fairy tale to the outside world, there were cracks beginning to show behind closed doors. India's journey into motherhood once again was complicated by the unspoken tension in their relationship with Kayvon. Despite this, she continued to prepare for the arrival of their child, documenting her pregnancy and her love for her growing family. Little did anyone know, her life and the life of her unborn son would be cut tragically short. On the morning of March 4th, 2023, what was supposed to be a day of celebration ended in horror. India, 9 months pregnant, was found dead in her apartment, having been shot multiple times. Her son, Zai, had witnessed the entire act. India had been preparing to go to the hospital to be induced that morning, but she would never make it. Instead, her life and the life of her unborn son were violently and senselessly taken away. The shooter was someone much closer to India than anyone could have ever imagined.
Police have identified a pregnant woman in Coleraine Township early this morning. Her name is India Kinmore. Police say the 26-year-old was shot just before 5 this morning on Hidden Meadows Drive off Hamilton Avenue. They say Kinmore was in the late stages of her pregnancy. The baby also died. Police have not said anything about a suspect or any arrests in the case.
It was around 5 o'clock when police responded to a 911 call about gunfire at the Hidden Meadows apartments. After entering India's apartment, they discovered her lifeless body and soon learned the horrifying truth. Her unborn son had also died. The loss of her unborn child, who was just hours away from being born, made this crime all the more tragic. The emotional toll on those who loved her was profound, especially as they learned that India's 6-year-old son, Zai, had witnessed the entire horrifying event. But the chilling part of this story was what 6-year-old son Zai would tell authorities. In his innocent confusion, Zai had run to his grandmother Terry to tell her that someone had broken into their home and that his mommy was screaming in terror. What followed was a long and painful search for answers. Initially, there were no solid leads, and Kayvon, India's boyfriend, played the part of the grieving partner. He attended India's funeral just 2 weeks after her death. But this would be the beginning of a dark investigation that would uncover a betrayal beyond belief. Police started their investigation with little evidence to go on. There was no weapon found at the scene, no obvious suspects, and no clear motive for the murder. But what they did have, however, was Zai's account of what he had witnessed, and that alone was enough to open the door to further inquiry. Detectives questioned Kayvon, who at the time seemed to be in disbelief over the loss of his partner and unborn son. He expressed his sorrow publicly, just weeks after the tragedy, and shared emotional posts on social media portraying himself as a grieving partner. But while Kayvon played the role of the grieving father, investigators began to dig deeper. They were searching for anything that could point them toward the killer. They combed through the apartment complex, gathered surveillance footage, and even analyzed phone records. But the case seemed to stagnate for months. Still, they never lost sight of their goal: to find the person responsible for this senseless act. Her mother, Terry, became a tireless advocate for justice, refusing to let her daughter's case be forgotten. She organized community marches, spoke passionately at press conferences, and relentlessly urged investigators not to give up. As detectives worked tirelessly to reconstruct the timeline of events, one chilling question haunted the city. Who could murder a woman 9 months pregnant just hours before she was set to be born? Despite the heartbreak, whispers began circulating through the community. Rumors surfaced about India's troubled relationship with Kayvon, the father of her unborn child. Some people speculated he was grieving, while others quietly wondered if he knew more than he was letting on. But with no solid evidence to make an arrest, the police could do little but wait, leaving the family to endure years of uncertainty.
Yeah, that's right, guys. And we spoke with a representative from the Coleraine Township Police Department behind me here who says there's not much that they can say publicly about the case at this point, but he does tell me that investigators in their process, they're moving forward. They're headed in the right direction with this as they continue to follow up on leads. And while that happens, we're hearing from a woman who says she's been a longtime friend of India Kinmore, and she's struggling with the news of her death.
For 2 long years, the case remained unsolved. While police assured the public that the investigation was progressing, no arrests were made. And India's family began to feel that justice was slipping further and further out of reach. Meanwhile, Kayvon continued his life as usual. He worked, spent time with his other children, and never left town. To outsiders, he appeared to be a man trying to cope with a tragic loss. But behind the scenes, investigators were uncovering a different story, one that would ultimately shock everyone. On closer examination, detectives uncovered a series of text messages and phone records that implicated someone close to India, Kayvon Warren, the father of her unborn child. But when they checked Kayvon's phone records, they found something chilling. These records showed communication between Kayvon and 2 other individuals, 20-year-old Robert Irvin and 22-year-old Lamar Suggs. What was thought to be a random, tragic act of violence was now shaping up to be a coordinated murder. The most chilling discovery was that Kayvon had allegedly been in communication with Robert and Lamar, planning India's murder. It turned out that Kayvon had been unhappy about the pregnancy, and when India refused to terminate it, he made a horrifying decision to end her life. The motive was clear. Kayvon did not want another child, and when India refused to give up on her pregnancy, he decided to take drastic measures. But even more disturbing was the fact that Kayvon didn't act alone. The police discovered that Kayvon had unlocked the back door of the apartment so that his accomplices could enter undetected. It was a calculated move. They also found that on the morning of the murder, Kayvon allegedly failed to react to the situation, leaving India to die while his son Zai listened in terror. Surveillance footage from the apartment captured the sounds of India's screams, Zai's cries, and most notably, the eerie silence of Kayvon, who did nothing to help. For nearly 2 years, the case went unsolved, leaving India's family and the Cincinnati community in a state of confusion and grief. But in August 2025, after relentless work by the police, the truth finally came to light. Kayvon Warren, Robert Irvin, and Lamar Suggs were arrested and charged with the murders of India Kinmore and her unborn son.
Breaking tonight back at home, Coleraine police announced arrests in a cold case involving the murder of a pregnant woman.
So this all happened back in 2023. 26-year-old India Kinmore was pregnant when she was shot on Hidden Meadows Drive. She and her unborn child were killed. Tonight, Coleraine police announcing the arrests of 3 men for the murder. 20-year-old Robert Irvin, 30-year-old Kayvon Warren, and 22-year-old Lamar Suggs are all charged with 2 counts of murder.
Kayvon's arrest shocked many, especially those who had known him. As the father of India's child and a man who publicly grieved her death, the news of his involvement in the crime was almost too much to fathom. Robert Irvin was charged with conspiring to murder India, and his phone records placed him near the crime scene at the time of the shooting. Lamar Suggs, who was already serving time for unrelated charges, was identified as the alleged gunman responsible for carrying out the deadly act. The community was left reeling. Many questioned how a relationship that appeared to be so loving, so normal on the outside, could spiral into such an unspeakable tragedy. What made Kayvon think that taking the lives of India and her child was a reasonable solution to his own personal issues? How could someone who once expressed love for India turn into the very monster who would betray her?
3 men are facing murder charges for killing 26-year-old India Kinmore and her unborn child. Thanks for joining us here at 5:30. I'm Ashley Kirkland.
And I'm Chris Jacobs. The 2023 shooting happened in Coleraine Township, and WLWT News 5's Danielle Dendak has been covering this case from the beginning. And Danielle, 2 of the men charged were arraigned today, and India's mother was also there.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Chris. She spoke, and it was very emotional. She told the courtroom that her daughter was killed on the day she was set to get induced.
My name is Terry Kinmore. I'm India's mother.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Behind the glass sits a pain that can't be seen but heard. For Terry Kinmore, that heartbreak dates back to March 2023.
I got the phone call from my grandson to say my mommy has been
26-year-old India Kinmore was pregnant.
Scheduled to be induced the same morning as the murder.
It would take almost 2.5 years for charges to come. 3 men, 20-year-old Robert Irving, 30-year-old Kayvon Warren, and 22-year-old Lamar Morris Suggs.
Conspiring to come up with this plan to kill Miss Kinmore and her unborn child.
Irving and Warren spent their Friday morning in front of a judge. Inside this courtroom, we learned the fatal family ties.
Mr. Warren was involved in a relationship with the victim. The victim was pregnant, and that at some point the evidence that has been uncovered was that he wanted her to terminate that pregnancy.
By the way, they don't say he's a They claim there's a conspiracy. They claim that Lamar Suggs is a Give him a high bond.
But this fierce mom had words for Warren.
I don't think he should see the light of day until this case is solved. That's what I would ask of this court.
Warren and Irvin are being held on a $600,000 bond. Suggs not in court today because he was already in prison on an unrelated weapons charge. Danielle Dendak, WLWT News 5.
For those who may be in toxic relationships or facing similar domestic situations, India's story serves as a cautionary tale. Her murder demonstrates how controlling behaviors and lack of open communication can escalate into something much darker. Additionally, the case underscores the importance of continuing to fight for justice even when the odds seem stacked against you. India's family could have given up, but instead they persevered, and their tireless efforts to keep the case in the public eye ultimately led to the arrests of those responsible. As the trial progresses, it will be important for the community to continue supporting the family as they have from the very beginning. The outpouring of love and solidarity that they received after India's death is a testament to the kind of person she was, someone who touched the lives of everyone she met. India Kinmore's legacy lives on in her family's strength and in the community that refuses to let her story fade into the background. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.